look forward to some questions and some responses from you. The next witness is the Honorable Thomas M. Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan is the Chief Counsel for the Office of Advocacy at the U.S. Small Business Administration. Prior to joining the A, he worked as Executive Director of the National Federation of Independent Business Legal Foundation. Mr. Sullivan, as head of the Office of Advocacy, is charged with independently advancing the views, concerns, and interests of small businesses before Congress, the White House, federal regulatory bodies, and state policy makers. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Westmoreland, good morning. Thank you for allowing me to appear before the committee. My name is Tom Sullivan. I'm the Chief Counsel for Advocacy, and because my office is independent within the Small Business Administration, the views expressed here don't necessarily reflect the position of the administration or the SBA. This testimony was not circulated for comment through OMB. My job is to try and remove regulatory barriers that stifle small businesses' ability to create jobs, drive innovation, and build communities. The main tool used by the Office of Advocacy to accomplish this is the Regulatory Flexibility Act. Section 610 of that Act requires agencies to periodically review the rules that are on the books and consider revising them to reflect modern conditions in order to ease the burden on small business. GAO reports, law review articles, this committee, and others have pointed out that government has not done very well in streamlining, downsizing, or modernizing existing federal rules and regulations. To try and address this problem, last year my office launched the Small Business Regulatory Review and Reform, R3 initiative. It's designed in part to improve compliance with Section 610 and further the goals of periodic review. Through R3's public rule reform nomination process, small businesses and their representatives can point out existing agency rules they feel should be reviewed and revised. Last year, small business stakeholders nominated over 80 rules for review and reform. 10 of those nominations were chosen for the top rules for review and reform this February. Now, we are working with agencies to respond to those calls for reform. My office will post online agency responses to the top 10 reform nominations next month, and we will update that progress report every 6 months. When the Office of Advocacy started to receive suggestions last year for rules that should be reviewed and reformed, we evaluated them to see, 1, whether the rule being nominated has ever been reviewed before for its impact on small business. 2, whether technology, economic conditions, or other factors have changed since the rule was originally drafted. 3, whether the rule imposes duplicative requirements. 4, whether that rule could reasonably be reformed to better accomplish its intended objectives with less burden on small business. And lastly, we evaluated the overall importance of the rule to small business and communities. Let me be clear to the subcommittee. Just because a rule that was not nominated for reform does not mean that my office ignores it. Rather, the nominations that were not chosen as the top 10 rules for reform have given my office valuable insight into how we prioritize the regulatory issues of concern for small business. 3 weeks ago, we kicked off our request for nominations for next year, and we've already received about a dozen suggestions. I believe that the R3 program will be an important tool for keeping agencies' attention focused on Section 610 of the Reg Flex Act and improving the quality of reviews of existing regulations. Given the importance of periodic reviews of current rules, Congress, my office, and small business have a common interest in the long-term success of R3. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'd be happy to answer questions.